Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best tech leaders in the world to help you scale from 2 million ARR to 100 million ARR. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Shane Metcalf, the co-founder and chief culture officer at 15Five. Shane, welcome to the show.
Really good to be here, Mike. Appreciate having me.
And let's get to know a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up starting up 15Five?
Yeah, so, like most things in my life, completely non-linear, random ass path that led me to end up starting this company. And so we've been at it for 8 years. So we started 15Five in 2012 officially. My co-founder had actually been working on it for about a year and a half prior to that.
Wow.
And so I kind of stumbled in right as we actually officially launched the product. And, I've always been very entrepreneurial, but I did not have starting a technology company on my radar. Prior to 15Five, I was doing a full-time executive coaching. I was obsessed with how do you help executive teams, how do you help leadership teams build highly cohesive, highly effective teams? And,
Awesome.
I've facilitated a bunch of co-founder divorces, for instance. And essentially, when I get into a room with two co-founders who are going at each other's throats and they're about to rip the company apart, mostly what I'm getting them to do is start telling the truth to each other. Because human beings suck at telling the truth. You think of most interviews, and it's mostly two people sitting in a room lying to each other. And so I learned all these fascinating things in my journey as a coach because, part of being a coach is get yourself a lot of coaching and going through a kind of transformational journey of learning how to really identify what do you really want in life and then how do you actually get it? It's like, what do you want and how do you get it? That's fundamentally my role as a coach and to challenge people's thinking and assumptions. And so I got to coach a bunch of incredible companies in that time. And I learned a lot of things about what not to do. I learned a lot of ways of being and ways of creating a company that would lead to dysfunctional behaviors and ultimately poor market performance down the road. And so I feel really lucky that was, because I think, most people, they have a successful business career and then they become an executive coach. I just kind of faked it. I was like, oh, I love coaching. And so then I figured out and hustled my way into, being fairly successful as a coach and then really started my business career in earnest.
Well,
and then there was a bunch of other weird stuff before being a coach. Living in the Bay Area, you can get yourself mixed up in all kinds of strange circles and lots of different courses and transformational teachings and, a lot of authentic relating focused communities that are really looking at like, hey, how do you actually get human beings to interact with each other in a less transactional way and a more present, authentic, transformational capacity. And so all those things have really influenced how I decided to build the company, from the beginning of saying, hey, let's do something a little different here. Let's really start asking the question, what if we built a company whose sole purpose was to unlock the potential of every member within it?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that lead to extraordinary performance and uncommon loyalty?
Absolutely. Well done. And that's how 15Five starts. And what is 15Five?
Yeah, so 15Five is a continuous performance management platform. We are focused on building high-performing, highly engaged organizations by helping people become their best selves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really important distinction because we believe that performance and engagement are a byproduct, not a root cause. If you want high performance, you want high engagement, you need to actually look at, well, what are the root causes of that? And then start addressing it there. So we have a platform designed really to create more feedback loops inside of a company. So everything from weekly check-ins and one-on-one agendas to OKRs, OKR management, analysis, tracking of your goals and objectives, performance reviews, so quarterly, biannual, annual performance reviews that are designed with positive psychology and humanistic psychology in mind. So that it's less about, hey, how do I game the system so that I can get a higher rating so that I have a chance of getting a raise? and more about how do I actually want to grow and develop as a human being and as a professional? What skills do I want to focus on? What competencies do I want to grow so that I can actually bring my strengths to the table and help fulfill the mission of the company?
God, it's very, very, very good point. And in terms of stage of growth, so kind of what is the head count, ARR interval, fund?
Yeah, sure. So, pretty sure my CEO would smack me if I reveal our ARR. But so head count. So we're just shy of 200 people, and give you a little bit of sense of our growth trajectory. We were a year ago, January 2019, we just passed 70 people. And so we've nearly tripled our headcount in 12 months.
Well done.
And, so it's been kind of breakneck growth this last year. We raised our Series B last year so in total, we've raised about 40 million from seed, Series A, Series B.
Got it.
And what's really exciting is I feel like we're, we've got, 2,400 customers using our product, using the platform. And, there's a lot of really exciting things. 2020 is an incredibly exciting year. We have the table stakes of a fantastic performance management platform. Everything that a company would need to run a really progressive, cutting edge performance management process.
Got it.
And what's happening this year is we're now launching services and education, because we know that the tool is only a tool, and it's going to be as good as the people that are using it. And so what we want to do is we want to provide now the education and the resources for developing the skills and the mindset as people leaders in order to be truly effective and transformational managers, to be truly effective and transformational executives and chief people officers, so that you can actually unlock the potential of your people.
That's an amazing vision, and we always talk about around SaaS companies the importance of services to serve customers using the product, and I think that sometimes we tend to look to services with some questions or some doubts about if they should exist in a product company.
Yeah, I know I did for a long time. I was like, hell no, we're a product company. Services don't scale. We need exponentially scalable technology.
Exactly.
And I've come along. I've come some ways in my thinking about that. One, we're moving up market. We've moved up market. We're servicing larger companies. In addition to SMB mid-market, we're now really servicing enterprise companies. And we need to be able to go in, for instance, OKRs. One of our very popular services is an OKR training and workshop.
Yeah.
People don't know how to do OKRs. OKRs are one of the most powerful and effective things that you can do to increase the performance of your company. And there's at least a year-long learning curve usually, where you're fumbling around in the dark, looking for the light switches. And what we can do is we can come in there, and in 2 days, we can help you find the light switch and turn it on and save yourself so much time, so much money. And so really getting that, so service is a big component of it. But then also what's really exciting is we just launched the Best Self Academy. And the Best Self Academy is a one-to-many, so it's a digital platform where we're providing training and education, certifications for managers to get better at one-on-ones, OKRs, performance reviews, all the things that managers need to be exceptionally good at if they're going to be a good manager.
That's amazing. Sounds very exciting. Your vision for the year. We all discuss nowadays if what we need is hyper growth or more sustainable growth. There is this rule which talks about the triple 2 times, double 3 times from 2 to 300 million. That's why we use this threshold in the podcast. What is your vision about growth? Should we grow as quickly as possible, or should we control the speed of growth to grow also in a more sustainable way?
I mean, It's a really interesting question because there's parts conflicts. In some of the coaching work and neurolinguistic programming work that I've studied, there's this idea of parts conflict. As a person, we might want something, but there's another part of us that wants something else. It's like I want to lose weight, but also I really want to enjoy myself and be able to eat that Snickers and chill out and watch some TV and eat some popcorn. And so I have this parts conflict. And so a company is also like a single organism and has competing demands, competing desires. Because on the one hand, in order to ensure our future success, we want to grow fast. We want to make sure that we have the right metrics and the KPIs so that we can go out and get that next round of funding, and that it's going to be easy. And we're not going to have a 9-month slog through the pits of hell in order to actually get some money for the company.
Absolutely.
We want to be able to go out and in 3 months we have those term sheets because our numbers are attractive, and from that pure growth perspective, it looks like a rocket ship. And yes, very good, very good. But some of the growth at all costs culture that has been created, I think, actually leads to much shorter life cycles for companies. That it's actually it can be destructive, and so. It's what game are you playing? Are you saying that, yeah, we want to play the infinite game where the point of growing is to ensure that we can continue playing the game? Mm-hmm. Because unlocking the potential of every member of the global workforce, this is a long game. We're not going to get there next quarter. Right. We're not going to get there this decade. This is a multi-decade game that we've decided to play. And so, yes, we need to, just speaking from our experience, we need to have a very healthy growth rate. And, our growth rate would be probably completely insane to a non-venture backed company. 80, 100% year over year growth is very aggressive, especially when you get into the double digits and you have, an 8-figure company. Doubling every year is quite a feat.
Absolutely.
And so, I think that growth is important in our industry. And what I would also say is that a lot of companies can grow, but not all companies evolve. And I really believe that it's actually the individuals that are leading the company. I mean, it's everyone in the company, but leadership has a disproportionate impact on the culture and the kind of psychology of the company. And so the leadership needs to evolve alongside its growth. Otherwise, you end up with a top-heavy company that actually kind of crushes the founders and that doesn't grow beyond the founders' shadows. And all of the founders' unprocessed childhood traumas come out in their leadership style and completely sink the ship.
Very good.
It's why I'm so passionate about founders, particularly founders doing therapy, doing the shadow work, like actually working on how their consciousness bleeds into and is represented in the whole company. It's kind of like a prism. The founder's consciousness is the prism through which the light gets shown through and then gets, fractalized and gets expressed inside of the whole company. And so it's like, if you have a dysfunctional company, look at yourself,
Usually your team and your strategy or results are a mirror of ourselves, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's difficult to see sometimes, that it's also very good to see another times. And there are critical ingredients to scale in our perspective that we always cover in the show. Number one is focus, or radical focus. Number two is what we were talking about, an amazing team. It all starts with a founding team. It evolves to a leadership team. Then it goes to a middle management team in order to keep scaling. And number three, an ingredient that you love, which is culture, and that puts everything together, and that assures that execution and learning goes quicker as possible, and puts together all the ingredients in the formula. So in terms of focus, we see that a lot of those companies early on make always the same kind of mistakes. And a lot of times, given the pressure of growth, we tend to open too many avenues of growth, going to too many geos, going to many verticals, too many segments, small business, mid-market, enterprise, all at the same time, just because instead of having 20 people now and maybe 500K in the bank account, they now have 5 or 10 million in the bank account and 100 people to play. So how do you assure as a co-founder that the company is focused on the milestone that needs to achieve in order to play the infinite game, in order to get to the 100 million in the decade?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a big fan of OKRs. And, yes, we built a fucking awesome OKR tool, which you all should check out. But, that's not the point. The point is that OKRs are a method of focusing. They really should, if used properly, they will force focus. They will say what is most important ahead of everything else. And it's a tough thing because, there's the temptation to do everything, to do it all at once. And, I really get this. It's like, this is real. It's like, as a 200 person company, we do have more capacity. There are more exciting opportunities, and to say no to things is harder because it's like, well, yeah, but we have capacity. And there's a reality that of course we have to be playing in more games. We can't just only say, yeah, we're gonna ditch all of our mid-market and SMB and only do enterprise. That's not always the right decision. And so I think that the process of choosing focus, it really needs to start with a clarity of what your purpose is as a company. What are you actually trying to accomplish? Why do you exist? And because that's the ultimate focus, that's the farthest out point where, okay, we need to filter all of the decisions we're making through that. Does this actually get us closer to our objective? Yes. Does this fulfill our mission? And if it doesn't, well, then have a really hard look at letting it go. There's a great book called Great at Work. I'm blanking on the author's name, but one of the principles, it's almost like a science-backed 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
right?
Modern version of that. And one of the first real principles they talk about is this idea of do less and obsess. That the path to success is not to spread yourself out so super thin, but it's actually to choose fewer objectives and obsess over those. And so it is a very difficult thing because it's so tempting to try to cover all the bases. And in some sense, in some cases, that is contradictory. I mean, like I have a little bit of that fear right now because it's like we're now, we have the product, but we're also launching services and we're launching education. And it's like, oh shit, are we falling into that same trap of trying to do everything? And yet the trifecta of services, education, and product, we believe are something that our competition can't replicate. That is that we talk to our managers and we talk to the people leaders and they say, we have so many first-time managers who don't have a clue how to manage people. We need help. There's an epidemic of a lack of awareness around these things. And so it's a real dynamic ongoing process of what are we focusing on. And what we try to do is we try to choose 3 to 4 company-wide objectives for the entire year that we really focus on and narrow in on, and then break it down into quarterly objectives underneath each of those.
Got it. Sounds amazing. And moving to the critical ingredients to scale number 2, which is team. You mentioned several times something that is really important for scaling. I typically say that in order to get to 5 million ARR, you can get with the CEO designing the strategy or with the founders designing the strategy. But to get from 5 to 10 and 10 million plus, you would need to have a leadership team building strategy together, building vision together, and then starting to build the next layer of leadership. So everyone has crystal clarity about what we are trying to achieve and how we pretend to get there. And you mentioned the dysfunctions of a team very often, and there is a very good book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni. Hugely formative in how I think about leadership teams. And yeah,
absolutely. And The 5 Temptations of a CEO, it's also a good one, and one of those that he shared.
I basically built my entire coaching career off of Lencioni's platform. I would devour his books, and then I'd be like, sweet. And I'd go into a company and be like, all right, people, we're going to run the 5 dysfunction survey. Right. And it tells me everything I need to know to now, coach you for a year. So a huge fan of Lencioni's work.
Absolutely. And in terms of having the right team for each stage of growth, so we tend to say that we'll need to lead 7 companies from 2 to 100 million ARR. We will need to have 7 different CEOs and 7 different leadership teams to get there. Or if possible, that leadership team, which is very difficult, will grow so quickly and will keep engaged with their life purposes to be on track with a business plan, that they will evolve to the next version that the company needs to keep scaling. So what's your take, and what are your learnings until now in the different stages of growth of 15Five?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, you need to set the expectation with your leadership team that they may get replaced. Because the company can scale exponentially, but people don't really scale exponentially. People can grow and evolve, and we can certainly get better, and we can certainly improve. But you need to set the expectation that, look, like this stage of our growth right now might at some point is really appropriate for you. But it might be that we end up needing to hire somebody above you. I think one of the worst expectations is that it's like, hey, you're a VP of marketing now. And then it's almost implicit expectation that they're going to be CMO and that they're going to run marketing for the entirety of the life cycle of the company or product. And so having that conversation up front that's saying, hey, we might need to hire somebody above you at some point. Like right now, you're the bee's knees. You are who the company needs, and that might change. And I think that it's a difficult conversation to have right up front, but I think it's really worthwhile because you need to be able to trust that when you do outgrow somebody's ability to say you went from 5 to 20 million with somebody, and now to scale from 20 to 50 or 50 to 100 million, it's an entirely different skill set. And it's funny, founders have a little bit of immunity from this because vision scales. Like vision is very scalable, but some of the skills, the execution skills, aren't as scalable. And so that's one thing that I think is really healthy to do is set that expectation up front. Now, I'm a huge fan. Like I just wrote a LinkedIn post, actually. I said, if you want to build an uncommonly healthy culture that can do the extraordinary, then obsess over building an uncommonly healthy leadership team. Tell each other the truth. Clear withholds. See their best and reflect it back to them. Be friends. I know, business heresy. Discover each person's zone of genius and maximize the shit out of it. Turn breakdowns into breakthroughs. Care deeply about the lives of each other outside the office. Dream big and challenge current thinking. Risk vulnerability and reveal your hearts. There's no greater gift you can give to the rest of your company than a highly cohesive leadership team. It will make or break your culture, and it's never too late to start. And, because it is so critical, and all of that, so much of what is the common theme of what I just said is emotional intelligence. And so investing in and spending the time to build a healthy leadership team, I really think is one of the greatest advantages that any company has at their disposal.
That's a very, very good point. Classifying culture as a competitive advantage and team
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
competitive advantage.
I mean, just like, a couple of things, just like, we're winning a lot of awards right now. We just won number 3 on Glassdoor for best place to work in the country. We just won number 2 best place to work in the Bay Area just
Congrats.
last week. We won Inc.'s best places to work, and we've been investing in this for a while, right? This isn't like we didn't just wake up in 2019 and say, hey, culture is important, let's do it. We've known this from the beginning, and the financial rewards are huge because, the decrease in turnover and the increase of employee lifetime value, when you factor in it's 2 to 4x somebody's annual salary to replace that person when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And you're paying somebody $250,000 a year. Well, dang, that's a lot of money. That has massive effects, especially when you then have 200 people and it starts compounding. It starts really, it's like, okay, cool. We can extend our employee lifetime value by 3 months. That has huge implications.
Absolutely. And we ended getting to the third critical ingredient, which is culture, and you already introduced it super well. And in terms of culture, I really believe on rituals to assure that people work well together, people are focused on the vision, people are connected with their life purposes and with the purpose of the company. So what are some of the rhythms that are critical to you, or the rituals that are critical to you to help to strengthen the culture and to achieve those business results that you talk about?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think of it of breaking it down into weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
On a weekly basis, our own product, sometimes it's almost just the water we swim in. So I forget that everyone doesn't do it, but it's so valuable because having those check-ins, having that opportunity to reflect, how are people doing? Like I can go in and I can see how everyone in my company is feeling. In 3 minutes, I have a report at my fingertips of seeing how the entire company is doing. And easily digestible. And so being able to keep a pulse on what's actually going on from people, because you have a feedback cycle, you have a feedback loop, so that I can go in and I can ask any question that I want. Like right now, I could go in and I could say, what is your biggest concern for 2020 for us as a company? And I don't have to wait 3 months to run a certain employee engagement survey and try to digest the data. I can actually just get that instantly. Weekly appreciations, getting people into the habit of recognizing and appreciating each other on a weekly basis, invaluable, because what you're doing is you're increasing the positivity ratio. And the positivity ratio is this idea from positive psychology that human relationships really thrive when you have approximately a 5-to-1 positive to negative interaction. Think about your marriage, with anyone you're dating. And it's like, if you have 5 negative emotional interactions for every 1 positive, that's probably not a very happy dynamic. You're probably not like thriving in that marriage. And if you have 5 positive emotional interactions, so every 1 negative emotional interaction, that's a really healthy relationship. And so what you want to do is you want to try to replicate that inside your company. You want approximately a 5 positive interactions to every 1 negative emotional interaction. Because you're building the emotional bank account so you can have those hard conversations. You can get into the gritty that stuff without it breaking the trust. And so weekly appreciation, super important. Then zooming out onto the other side of the spectrum on annual rhythms, we just had our annual company-wide retreat. And so we brought everybody together and rented a hotel in Palm Springs, and it's amazing. And it's so crucial. We're distributed. We're in, I don't know, I think like 9 countries and 20 states. So we're all over the place. And so it's really important to bring everybody together, especially since 120 of these people were hired in the last year and haven't met each other.
Very good point.
And that's the opportunity for us to come together in person and get very clear on why do we exist? What do each of us really want out of this company, out of our own lives, doing some life visioning, because you always want to be actually looking at intrinsic motivation. How does you working at our company and helping us realize our mission help you realize your mission?
Yeah.
Which is a different paradigm of how to do business. Because before it's just like, whatever, you're a human resource, you're just a lump of coal. I'm going to shovel you into the furnace, and we're gonna push the train along the tracks, and then you're gonna burn up, and we'll shovel some more human resources into the furnace.
Exactly.
And instead, it's saying, actually, no, you're a complete, whole, dynamic human being with all of the complexity of your dreams and desires and your hopes and your fears. And we want to, as a company, be a vehicle for you to realize your ideal life. And that's just a totally different approach to managing people. And when you do that, though, what happens is you tap into the intrinsic motivation of a human being. And they will give more, they will sweat more, they will do the best work of their life, because they have ownership of the mission, and they know that you actually care about them. And it's such a pleasure to work in that capacity, because, like, again, back to this growth conversation we were having earlier. Yeah, it's awesome if we can build, billion-dollar companies, but if we're ruining lives along the way, if people are leaving our companies burned out, lesser versions of themselves than when they started, is that really the game we want to be playing? Aren't we realizing that just the greed for pure wealth accumulation isn't the way forward for us to have a thriving society on this planet? Like, yeah, like nothing wrong with making millions, billions of dollars, but can we do it in a way that's generative for the people that are part of it? And it's the journey itself is fulfilling. So we're not just waiting for that IPO and then I can be happy.
That's amazing, Shane. It's a very interesting energy that you share with us on the show, and I think that's something that is really incredible for me. It's the way that you position the team and the culture as a core competence of the company. And it seems that I'm looking for one of the tools that I use for building the main blocks of the strategy, which is the 7 strata, which is a scaling up framework. Also very well connected, Vern Ardnish, well connected with Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah.
And one of the building blocks of that strategy, it starts with the words that you want. It goes for core customer, brand promises, guarantees, differentiating activities. And there is one there, which is the 10x or unfair advantage before getting to the BAG, which is something very interesting. As the chief culture officer, it seems that you are really building the IP, that the unfair advantage for your company and for all the companies that have the possibility of leveraging 15.5 as a tool, which creates a very interesting purpose also for myself as a CEO coach. I really love the chemistry. Well done.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, we used to give a talk about how to 10x your people, because it's like, yeah, like we all talk about like 10xing our revenue, but like 10x your people and you'll 10x your revenue.
Another great point. And we come to the end of the show with one of our favorite questions, which is, if you would have the opportunity to meet Shane 8 years ago at the beginning of 15.5, what advice would you offer to Shane?
Well, I'm really glad, because I think he took my advice, which was stay with it. Like, do not give up, like perseverance, that like it's a struggle to build a company. It's a struggle, because it really also it's your own hero's journey. You will confront your deepest insecurities, your darkest shadows in this process, and persevere, stay with it. Do not give up. And incredible things, the fruits of your labors will be incredibly sweet, and like, just stay with it. And also, I'd probably say, let's see, what's the essence of it? Like, dig in a little faster. Because it feels like in the last 2 to 3 years, there was a lot of really incredible things that happened in my life personally that allowed me to show up in a better way for the company. And so I might say just like, go work with this coach faster. Like don't waste 5 years doing that. Just go immediately. And, it's like, I also have the belief that the past is perfect and that, of course I went on that journey because I needed to, and I needed to learn those lessons. So, but yeah, stay with it, man. Because it really is a game of perseverance.
That's amazing. Chen, thanks so much for sharing your experience and your career with us today.
Thank you, Mike.
And to our community, thanks for being on that side. We keep bringing you the best of the best so you can leverage their lessons and avoid their mistakes as you build your scale up from 2 million ARR to 100 million ARR. See you soon and keep scaling.